A happy draft eve to you and yours. Yeah, it's the night before Steelers Christmas, and the hope being is that everybody, in Steelers Nation gets what they want tomorrow. But that is a tall order. That is not something that because the Steelers Nation is a very fickle bunch. What I agree with and what you agree with could be two wildly different things. So I'm putting out here my Tom Was Here sixth annual. Sixth annual. Yes, I've been doing this for 6 years. Wishful Thinking Mock Draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023. Now, we are going to get into this. I have it right here, my list. Oh, did you get a little preview? Did you get a little sneak peek? It's easier to do it this way than for me to film it downstairs, render it, edit it, do all that stuff. So we're doing it live. We're doing it live this year. So with the Steelers, where does everybody want to go? I mean, what's their biggest need? I think that the fans and even the experts and the professionals think the biggest Steelers need, and what the Steelers think the biggest Steelers need is very, very wildly different. If you watch that press conference that Tomlin put out there with Khan and Tomlin, they basically said they had no glaring needs at the moment. I humbly disagree. They have some glaring needs at the moment, I feel. There are certain positions that I do feel are glaring needs for the Steelers. Look, and the chat is very robust, and I can already tell you, my friend Todd's not going to probably like my wishful thinking mock draft, at least not in the first. And of course, Browns fans chiming in with no good players. Look, that's normally your guys' job to have no good players. Sorry, Browns fan. Sorry, Browns fan. I know you're so nice to me, and I just kicked your team in the shins. I like the Browns. It's a shame that they can't draft or do anything well. It's unfortunate. And then Wook at the putting the Fire Tomlin chat in the thing right at the mix. Shocking that it would come so early. Usually you see something where Fire Tomlin just gets his way out. Right out of the gate for everything he does. Although this offseason has been pretty good, hasn't it? I mean, Khan's working the deals, man. He's putting in all the deals, and they're building in the trenches. And I think that continues in this draft, to be honest with you. I really think the trench approach is going to be what the Steelers do in this draft. I would be shocked if they did anything else. So, should we get into this? Should we get into it right now? Why not? The con artist, man, you got to give him credit. Now, obviously, as mentioned, as I mentioned before, and people I've talked with privately off here, Khan is great, but tomorrow's the test. You can be a great GM in the offseason, but you have to draft well too. That is a big part of it. And to be honest, the Steelers, have under Colbert, some misses, but they have found some gems, and they have been a fairly consistent draft team, especially when compared with the rest of the league. Because the rest of the league, there's been some bad picks over the years by certain teams that shall remain nameless. Real Browns fan, 32. Sorry. So, you know what? Let's just get into the first pick here. And yes, Browns fan. And Khan is not bad. Khan is actually, we weren't sure what to expect from Khan, and really in this offseason, he has kind of come through in a big way. Building in the trenches, rebuilding the offensive line. He's taking the playbook that I think most teams do now, where they realize that if you have a rookie contract, that's your window. So you can fit, bigger free agency names, bigger, add certain pieces in free agency that you cannot necessarily add when you have a quarterback that makes 20, 30, 40, or in the case of your guys Browns $50+ million a year. So when you have that giant contract with a quarterback, you can't then add certain players. There are limitations there. And so with the, knowing that you have a small window of 4-year, about a 5-year with a club option window to add as many players as you can to assist your young quarterback, you do that. And Khan so far has been doing that very well. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Look. You say hi?
Hi.
Say hi. Oh, you're not even on the screen. Hold on. I'll be back in there. My daughter wants me to put on programs for her. The benefit of doing this when my wife works. Hi. Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, Chloe. You want to put on something on? Here. Go out there real quick. I'll go put on something in a second. All right. Hold on, guys. Apologies, everyone. When you have an autistic daughter and she wants to watch, she does not care if you're doing a live stream. She wants to watch her programs and she wants to watch them now. So, my friends are already fighting in the chat. Settle down, gentlemen. We can have wrestling matches tomorrow to determine the winner. Okay, you know what? Let's get into it. And let's hear your cheers and jeers, because I am expecting a little bit of both, especially based on the first comment that came through on this chat stream. I wonder if that comes through. Hopefully it came through. Round 1. Pick 17. Once again, keep in mind, this is the wishful thinking mock draft. That means that it falls how the Steelers... what a day to do this alone. Chloe, I'll be out there in a minute, please. Okay. Does the suspense build enough? Round 1, pick 17. And it is, and I can't remember because I'm getting constantly interrupted. Hi, Chloe. Hi, Chloe. Look, this is, do you know what this is? We're sidebarring this here. This is the benefits of dealing with a child that wants to watch your programs, that does not care about your live stream. All right, go out there. I'll go out there in a second. I'll put it on in a second. Hold on. Go out there, Chloe. She's not leaving. Okay. All right. I'm going to do this and I'm going to let you debate in the comments. We'll do it real quick. Round 1, pick 17. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Paris Johnson, the tackle from Ohio State. Will he be there at 17? No. But this is the wishful thinking mock draft, and this is how it's going. The hope being is that he falls. He falls to 17. I don't want them to trade up for him. I really don't want them to trade up for him. But if you read the tea leaves, if you read the professionals, if you read based on what everybody says, they're looking for a tackle. They want to trade up for a tackle. They need a tackle. I think that's where they're identifying as their top need. Everybody's talking about it. They seem to be talking about it. The tea leaves are basically saying a tackle. So tackle is the pick at 17. And look, I obviously want it to be Paris Johnson. He's the top tackle in the draft. I don't think that there's I think a loose Broderick Jones could be there at 17. I think it could be Joey Porter at 17. It could be Porter at 17. But I'm going to say it's Paris Johnson here. I think that is honestly what they want to do. I think they feel that's a glaring need. Currently, if you look at the Steelers depth chart, the right side of the line is Chucks and then LaRaven Clark as the swing tackle. The left side of the line is Dan Moore with no backup. And that just will not happen. There's no way they're going into the season with that. So if they don't address tackle in this first round, they're addressing it in that early second spot at 32. So for me, it's Paris Johnson here. I think, yeah, exactly right. It's a Kenny had 2 concussions this season. They realized the line was a liability, and they talked about how it gelled at the end of the season. But I honestly think that's just to build up their guys, and not necessarily that they like what was going on with the O line this season. I mean, you had the concerns about Dotson. Dotson's basically been replaced. They're like, oh, we like how the line gelled, and then they signed how many offensive linemen? 4? Was it 3 or 4? Samalu, Herbig, Raven Clark. Was there another one? Might have been another one. But yeah, clearly they're not thrilled with how the line gelled. Let's put it that way. They're not thrilled with how the line gelled because it was bad. It just wasn't good. Najee couldn't, find a lane. And Najee was getting some criticism for not being able to find a lane, but they're not finding a lane because the line was bad. They weren't getting the thing. So, you completely rebuild your line here. And like I said, it starts with the trenches. Like, that's the common theme that's been coming through this offseason, is building in the trenches, especially the offense. They want to protect the young quarterback. They're going to start with the O-line. So that is the pick. It's Paris Johnson at 17. Now, will he be there at 17? No. I mean, I don't think so. Stranger things have happened. Let's see. We're Grounds fan. Question here on, is Najee a top 15 running back? I think Najee is a top 15 running back. You have to, and he's not Superman. He's not. You got to give him the holes to get through. I mean, my concern is I think he's a guy that when he has the right line to run behind. But as we've shown, without a proper a line to run behind, he's very pedestrian in that regard, and I think that's something that has to be improved too. He needs to make more out of nothing, and he doesn't seem to make more out of nothing. So that is definitely something where he exactly right. Yeah, I mean, Le'Veon Bell was a patient runner. He would do that, kind of wait for like the blocks to set and then find his lane and go. So in that regard, Bell could do more with nothing so far based on his resume versus Najee's resume than what Najee has shown as of yet. So I do think Najee is good. I do think Najee has to be more consistent. As Matt said, I do think Najee needs to be more consistent for sure. There's things to improve on. Todd says he's not a top 15 running back in this league. I'm just trying to think who is like better in this regard. Because Najee, he gets a lot of carries, but I believe he grinds his way up to about 1,000 yards, a little over 1,000 yards. I mean, that's, it just takes him a ton of carries, and a lot of those carries were for no yards. I did notice he got healthier as the season went on. It's definitely something where he started out the season injured. They didn't really specify how injured he was. I think he was injured. I think he got healthier as it went on, but there's a weird thing there with the Steelers because they got better as the season went on, but they also played significantly worse people as the season went on. So is that a misnomer, or is that something where, he is, they are the ones to, they found their footing, or did they find their footing because they played against bad teams? You be the judge on that. So that's fair point, Todd. That's a very fair point. Jaylen Warren did find lanes to run behind the same line. Jaylen Warren was hitting the holes faster, which, you could say was also based on his speed, but you could also say that you're right, that he, under that same line, he was able to find that. He was able to find those holes where Najee wasn't. And that is a concern. Legitimately, that's a concern moving forward because Najee doesn't have that burst that Jaylen Warren does. So is he not the right back for this offense or this team? And you wonder about the inefficiencies of Canada, hanging him out to dry in certain circumstances. There were times when, I could have told you, and I'm sitting, I'm sitting 10 miles from the stadium on my couch, and I can tell you what plays a run and what plays a pass. And you don't think the people on the field know that? They absolutely know that. So that didn't help as far as Canada's limit, Canada putting it out there too, where Canada was making these inexplicable play calls that were basically tipping their hand as to what they were doing. It wasn't good. So Najee, for sure, there's no excuses this year. Especially if they add an offensive tackle in the first round. There's no excuses for Canada. There's no excuses for Pickett. There's no excuses for Najee. They all have to be consistent. They all have to be better. Simple as that. So, 32 time. Pick 32. In this one, there is one trade, but it is not. And don't mind, listen, this is like living near train tracks at this point. Do you hear music? I don't hear music. I live with this music constantly. Okay. Round 2, pick 32. Pittsburgh Steelers take Deonte Banks, the cornerback from Maryland. Now, Deonte Banks has been rumored to be, at best, a mid-round, first-round pick this year, and at worst, in the second round. You simply don't know where you're going to put him. Now, if I had my druthers, I would want Joey Porter at 32. Do I think Joey Porter's going to be there at 32? No. In fact, I really wanted to put Joey Porter at 32. I looked at Mock Draft Database, has a comprehensive breakdown of every mock draft from every major news source out there, and the lowest I could find Joey Porter going was 30. No one put him in the second round. Now, you could say that at 30, if he falls all the way to 30, he can fall all the way to 32. Because Joey Porter's got limitations to his game. He's a press corner. He's got all the talent in the world. He's a giant corner. And if Joey Porter Jr., his name is not Joey Porter Jr., my guess is he would be roughly in that late first, early second range. But with that Joey Porter name, he's linked to the Steelers at 72 because the Steelers love the bloodline. But keep in mind, they did fire his dad. So you don't really know. So I took Deonte Banks here. I thought that was the more realistic corner option at 32. Because there's a chance he could be there. Right now, this is big hype season. The hype is real. The hype is saying Hendon Hooker is going to be in the first round. They're saying Hendon Hooker is not going to fall out of 20. They're saying Nolan Smith is not going to fall out of 20. You're hearing all these different random names that aren't going to fall out of 20. Well, there's only so many players that can go. And some of these players are not going to be in the top 20 or the top 31 for that matter. And somebody's going to fall to the first, and the Steelers are going to pounce if they do not trade out of this pick. Now, I think the Steelers could trade down, especially if they trade up in the first. If they trade up in the first, don't be shocked if they don't get rid of 32, that they get rid of 32 after that to get more picks. And if they don't trade up in the first, unless they trade down in the first, I think they might move 32. I agree with you, Todd. I don't necessarily want to trade up in the first. But if you read the reports say the draft only has 20 good players in this draft. So are we just trading bad players for more bad players? Or are they just saying only 20 good players work in the draft? It's hard to say. You don't really know. And there's going to be guys, there's going to be gems in the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, just like any other draft. And there's going to be major busts in the first. Just like it is just about every year. There's going to be giant busts. Browns fan, you're jumping the gun here, because just you wait. If you've watched any of my previous drafts, then you know there is a guy I covet. There is a guy that I demand to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. That's because he's basically been wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform his entire college career. Round 2, pick 49. Pittsburgh Steelers select Jack Campbell, the linebacker from Iowa. Yes. Look, the guy he's 6'5". He ran a 4.5 40. Good Lord. The Steelers added a couple inside linebackers this year, and those inside linebackers, don't get me wrong, they're going to probably start for this team, but man, I love Jack Campbell. I have watched all the highlights. I have watched the highlights of several inside linebackers because I watched them before them adding inside linebackers. Now that they've added inside linebackers, I do think Campbell's my top MLB. A lot of people were talking Trenton Simpson, and I have fear. I have a giant fear because Trenton Simpson is one of those guys that they said, well, he's a good athlete. He's raw. He's talented. He's a good athlete. Name someone that was a great athlete and not a great football player. He was raw, rough around the edges, that became a great football player. I'll wait, because I can't think of one. I can't think of one guy that was like, well, he's raw and talented. You just have to wait him out. And then what happens is they never become anything. That's basically what happens. They never become anything. And I'm always wary of guys that started out the draft process. And I'm looking at you, Anthony Richardson, that started out the draft process much later at the end of the season, like, oh, this guy won't get drafted until the 4th, 5th round, and suddenly he's going to be drafted in the top 5 picks. Why? What changed? Because he did a good broad jump? Who cares? You can't broad jump on the field. No one cares. So I have concerns. If a guy's consistently, they feel he's a first round guy, he's a second round guy, he's a third round guy at the end of the college football season, I want him to stay there. And if somebody moves from a day 2, day 3 selection to a day 1 selection just because of hype, just because they ran a good drill, what's that matter? Show me the tape. Show me the highlights. Show me what they did on the field. I like Drew Sanders too. I just have concerns about because Sanders and Campbell are guys that are like consistently seem like high motor guys. And Trenton Simpson has that type of thing where he could be that, but it's raw athletic gifts. And that's great if you could harness those raw athletic gifts, which no team ever seems to be able to do. I can't think of one example where somebody took somebody that was just super raw and they turned that cookie dough into a cookie. I just never seen it happen. Not that I can remember. Let's see. I would take a Kirk Cousins type of quarterback and Cam Newton. Yeah, I agree because a Cam Newton type will only get you so far. Cam Newton ran, and he had a good arm, and he ran. He had a great run game. And then what happened? The run game started to disappear, and then his game started to disappear. The rare transition of someone that can move from a mobile quarterback to a pocket quarterback doesn't always happen. You either have to have both or you have to have the pocket because the mobile only goes so far. Hence the case of Lamar Jackson. His own team doesn't want to pay him the money because they acknowledge there will come a day when he simply won't be able to rely on his legs anymore and he's going to have to throw. And can he throw consistently? The vote's still out on that one. And Ben Roethlisberger on his podcast got a lot of criticism that says you don't fear Lamar Jackson's arm. And then, RG3 came out against him and all these people came out against him. You don't fear Lamar Jackson's arm. Sorry. You fear his legs because he's a great running back. And he'll give you about a few passes a game where you're like, ooh, where you get nervous. You go, oh man, like he'll throw a 40-yard strike and hit it on the button. But if only he could do that consistently. He can't. I've seen it. Everybody's seen it. We play the Ravens 2 times a year. You see it every year. There's times where he's on his game and there's times where he's off his game. And you want to pay $250 million and lock your team up, hitch your team to that wagon for somebody who can't consistently hit targets when they can't run the ball? Not me. Yeah. So I know. Okay. Let's move right along here. guess what? Steelers are going to do a little double dipping in round 3. Oh, I didn't rewind my little thing. Love that sound. Okay, round 3, pick 80. The Pittsburgh Steelers take Julius Brents, the corner from Kansas State. That's right there, double dipping. Look, giant corner, 6'4" corner. Obviously, there are some issues there with a giant. Oh, if only I would. I mean, punter maybe. 6'4" guy. I mean, come on, a 6'4" corner. You look as far now. He doesn't have the same speed as a Tariq Woolen that the Seattle's got in the 3rd round. But man, I mean, the Steelers need corners. They might not believe it, but they need corners. Levi Wallace last year, Caleb Witherspoon last year. Caleb Witherspoon, not terrific. Levi Wallace was okay. He was okay, but it is his last season. And they brought in Patrick Peterson, and Patrick Peterson, is a guy that you want to mentor up. So if you bring in 2 corners like Banks, like Brents, you have them get coached up, not just off the field, but on the field by a future Hall of Famer in Patrick Peterson. You might have something there. So that's why I'm having them double dip corner this year, because you have a guy like Banks who could be, eventually then your starter, but may be able to work his way hopefully into like the nickel situation starting out. And you have Brents, that's a guy that may be a little bit more raw, but is someone that has the size to be able to come in nickel and dime situations, at least work their way onto the field and be able to make some process. And maybe even be better than Witherspoon, depending on which version of Witherspoon you get. Now, Brent's comparables all over the place. I've seen him as high as 2. I've seen him a fringe 1. Some mock draft I watched, they took him at 7. Steelers took him at 17. Which no, sorry, not at 17. But at 80. 80 or 80. I'm messing up my thing. I have taken tackle, corner, linebacker, corner. That's correct. That is correct. There are other holes to fill. There's people that may have some concerns that there's a very big talk among Steelers Nation of a certain position that will be addressed here in the next pick that they can't seem to find someone for. They've tried. They can't seem to find one. But Brents is the pick here. Round 3, pick 80. And you know what? Let's jump right into, because I teased it enough. Round 4, pick 120. $120th pick, 4th round. The Steelers take Nick Herbig, edge rusher, Wisconsin. Yes, oh yes. The Steelers do love their siblings, don't they? They lead the league in siblings. They love a good sibling. They cannot have 2 different players. If the Steelers had their druthers, they would have Peyton Manning as a quarterback and Eli as his backup. They love siblings. So what better than to add to Nate Herbig than his brother, Nick Herbig, who is an edge rusher, and the Steelers need a 3rd edge. Now, this is round 4, pick 120. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they have been looking for an edge rusher for some time. The concern with Herbig is that Herbig is not very big, and they think he's going to have to move inside. Well, you already took Jack Campbell to take inside. So what are you going to do with him? Well, James Harrison was no towering figure. He just had the power and the motor to get around, these tackles. And Herbig has a high motor. High motor. They did. They also stole the Pirates being able to win stuff, too. Although, look, up is down, black is white, pigs can fly, and the Pittsburgh Pirates are the hottest team in baseball. I don't believe it myself, but apparently that's where we are. Basically they are family. I mean, they had Edmonds brothers, they had Watt brothers, they had who am I forgetting? Oh, they had Connor Hayward's brother. I mean, like I said, there's so many different siblings on the Steelers team. So of course they're going to add Herbig here. And yeah, that is that, and it's an edge, it's a need, it's a high motor guy. Oh, it's another country heard from. High motor guy. And yeah. I mean, yeah, her small. Yeah, he is small, but as a high motor guy, all you got to do is coach him to pull that James Harrison, where they wrap you around the neck and get a holding call each time, or in Harrison's case, not get a holding call each time, and then you're on your way. And now, the long wait begins. The Black October, because the Steelers don't pick again until the 7th round. Or do they? Trade alert! Trade alert! The Pittsburgh Steelers have made a trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars for pick 121. That's right. They picked Herbig at 120, and they're jumping right in at 121 because they see a guy they like. And they are giving away Kevin Dotson. We hardly knew ye. Dotson is on the outs. Let's not kid ourselves. They're talking about trade rumors and trade bait. They're giving away Dotson, and they're giving a 2024 6th-round pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars for the 4th-round pick, 121. And who are they taking at 121? Jair Brown, the safety from Penn State. Similar to Herbig, his comps are all over the place. Some people have him in 2nd, some people have him in the 3rd, some people have him in the 4th, some people have him in the 5th. I take him in the 4th here because Mock Draft Database, the mock draft simulator I was using, had both Herbig and Brown right at the selection. I did several mocks when I was putting this together last night, and Herbig and Jair Brown were sitting there at 120 and 121. And I went, well, this is the one. Look, Steelers had a long talk with Brown at Penn State Pro Day, a long talk. I mean, they're like really talking to him a long time. They could have went a few different ways safety-wise here. I still wouldn't be shocked if a Brian Branch selection happens because of the versatility at his ability to play basically every position in the secondary. I wouldn't be shocked if they go Jordan Battle. In fact, I kind of prefer Jordan Battle to Brown as far as the other safety from Alabama, because he's consistently a strong safety, which I think 2 Alabama safeties, what could be bad there? So Jair Brown, Penn State is the selection. Round 4, pick 121, and unfortunately, Kevin Dotson and a 6th go their merry way. But I think that's good value here. I think you're right. There's a lot of safeties in the top 100, and there's a lot of different ways they can go. I have looked into several of them. The people I do like, though, I do like Antonio Johnson, I think his name is. I like Battle. I like Branch, and I like Jair Brown. I think they're pretty good safeties. There are other safeties there that are good too, and hopefully the Steelers end up with one of them. Okay, now considering we only traded 1 pick ahead, the long wait begins. Time to get some cleaning done. Steelers got to wait from round 4 to round 7. They do not have a 5th and 6th round pick. I do feel they will trade back in one way or another. Well, and get DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, look, I'd love to have DeAndre Hopkins. So where do you put him at this point? Unless you're trading Deontay Johnson, unless you're trading Johnson to Arizona to acquire Hopkins for some reason. I don't think that's something they would do. I wouldn't mind it. But it's not something they would do. But yeah, it would be cool. It'd be cool to get Hopkins, but yeah, they just traded for Allen Robinson and traded basically nothing to get him. And the hope being is that you can get Robinson true to form. You can get him back to, where he was a couple years ago, because keep in mind, this dude is putting up 1,000-yard seasons with Mitch thrown to him, and a shaky Chicago Bears, both play calling and line and offense, and he was putting up killer stats. So you put him in a much better team, where he doesn't have to be relied on as much, and he's able to just roam around out there, and Robinson may be okay. Yeah, that's a concern too, and that's why probably people haven't traded for him yet. Is that Hopkins is getting a little bit older now. He had the PED suspension this past year. He missed 6 games. Now he came back, was pretty good, but he did not have the year. The remainder.
Think about McCutcheon. He was 2 bad seasons. He was old. And he came back and
That's fair. The boy made a baseball comparison. He said, what about Andrew McCutcheon, who had some mediocre seasons, and now he's back with the Pirates, and he's blowing it up. He's having an MVP caliber season, and Hopkins certainly turn it around like that. Absolutely. I mean, I think he is a talent. The money, that's Todd, that's the bigger issue. The money is the concern. A lot of money, lot of cash. Yeah, that. Never mind him. He's he was actually right. That was actually a solid comparison there. Okay. Round 7, pick 241. This bounced all around the league. It went from Minnesota to Denver, now to the Steelers. So a lot of weird bouncing around on these. Oh wait, didn't they? Oh no, that's right. That's 241. Okay. All right. I was just making sure I had the updated one that they had gotten the Robinson trade. Okay. Round 7, 241. Really, it's the 7th round. I mean, you're lottery ticket picking at this point. So could they go different places? Could they go really anywhere? Sure they could. In this circumstance, I think that the Steelers will take Carter Warren, tackle out of Pittsburgh. Look, they added LaRaven Clark as a swing. If you add Paris Johnson, then Dan Moore becomes a swing. With Carter, you're just kind of hoping for depth, really. I mean, what else do you need? A depth, a practice squad guy, someone that can come in and be okay for you. The Steelers, I will say, under the Colbert era, and we don't know as far as what the Tomlin era is, what the Kahn era is as far as that goes. But Colbert would consistently draft late offensive linemen, and they turn into steady depth role players for the, there's, a long lineage of dudes that were, had to step in and play meaningful games for the Steelers. It's definitely something where I think Warren is, I think a guy that could come in and play meaningful games for the Steelers. Now, unfortunately, that will be a situation where somebody gets hurt, but just as Matt said, a steady dude who you're getting in the 7th round, no less, and you hope it works out, because that's all you can wish for the 7th. So let's see, who do you think is the top 3 AFC next year?
Steelers.
No, I'm not. Give you a full blown Yenzer. I love to see the Steelers up there. I mean, I think the Steelers will be playoff bound this year. I don't know if I'd put them top 3 AFC. Unfortunately, everybody's still riding on the Chiefs' coattails, and I believe they do have a lot of picks this year too. Which the rich only get richer in that regard. You wonder how long it lasts with Kelsey, as he's getting older. Is it something where he can still kind of put on the, basically, because he's been far and away their top receiver. If he's gone, obviously Mahomes can get it to just about anybody. The Bengals, sure. The Bengals, they're going to have to pay Burrow a bag. And, they haven't lost a ton yet. And you wonder when that contract's going to start coming through and whether that hurts them. And then the Bills are weird. You think the Bills, like with Allen, that they should be, but the Bills are real inconsistent at times. Like the Bills should have been more of a team that you think, oh, look at these random teams coming through, like the Jags. The Jags did they were in the playoffs last year, weren't they? They were in the playoffs. Chiefs, Bengals, Jets. Oh, Jets, Aaron Rodgers effect. You kind of wonder, is he going to have an Aaron Rodgers effect on the Jets, or is he going to have what Brett Favre's effect on the Jets were? You simply don't know. I personally like the Aaron Rodgers that wasn't saying stupid stuff on TV every few days, or crawling into weird dark caves and stuff and then having epiphanies. I wanted the guy that was, hitting 60-yard Hail Marys and completing them. So I'm very concerned about, Aaron Rodgers for the Jets, but he is far and away the best quarterback they've had since Brett Favre. So, history repeats itself in that regard. But yeah, I simply don't know. If I had my pick, I would say Chiefs, probably Bengals, probably, and the third team, man,
Steelers.
Yeah, let's go Steelers. Why not? Let's do it. Why not? Let's say Kenny makes a turn. Now, the person that's going to stop that is there's only one man that can stop that, and that's Matt Canada himself. He has no excuses this year. He's got to get it done. There's just no excuses, especially depending on how this draft goes. Because if they add weapons, if they add Jordan Addison or something crazy in this draft, or definitely some offensive weapons, man, he's really going to have no excuses but be able to get it done this year. So, you ready for that final pick? Are you ready for that final pick? Now, let's do it. Not that they'd give that notification on pick 251. That's a few picks away from Mr. Irrelevant. Now, Matt, if you watch my previous Wishful Thinking mock drafts for years, I wanted them to draft a punter. And, now they did draft a punter, and that punter's been not great. So they have actually, they picked up on waivers a guy from the Jets who apparently was also a punter of the year, a Ray Guy Award winner. So there's going to be a camp battle for the punting position between Presley Harvin and Braden Mann. But in this circumstance, round 7, pick 251, Matthew, you are correct. Omar Khan, in his press conference, said they were talking about depth at positions. And they were saying there's good depth here, there's good depth here. And they said there's good depth at quarterback, but we're not taking a quarterback. And everybody said, oh, they're not taking a quarterback. And what I interpreted that is that they're not taking a quarterback early. Because them not taking a quarterback in the first is basically putting assurances on Kenny, because everybody's talked about, some of the earlier mock drafts are like, they need to take Stroud. They need to trade up for Stroud. They need to trade up for Bryce Young. Kenny's inconsistent. Kenny's not good. Kenny's, blah, 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 blah. And Omar Khan consistently had to say, especially in like the combine and stuff, that Kenny's their guy. They're not going to waste a first round. They're not going to pull what the Cardinals pulled a few years back with Josh Rosen. They're not going to take a first-round guy and then take another first-round guy quarterback. They're not going to do that. So they're saying they're not taking a quarterback early. But currently, the depth chart is Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky. That's it. End of list. And do I want to see Mitch back? Not really. I don't want to see Mitch back. Or not Mitch back. Mason back. I don't want to see Mason back. We've about seen all we can, and clearly the rest of the league is enamored with him because he doesn't have a job yet. I wish that that they could find some guy, but at this point it's slim pickings on the line. So with quarterback wise, so round 7, pick 251, the Pittsburgh Steelers take Clayton
Bennett.
No, not Stetson Bennett. Sorry. Too many off-field issues. And yeah, he won some national championships, but he's 25. Too many off-field issues. And there's a reason why people are taking him in the 7th or not at all. They're going to take Clayton Tune, quarterback from Houston. Why? because the Steelers had a top 30 visit with Clayton Tune. And the Steelers don't take those top 30 visits lightly. So if they have a visit with that guy and they see him here a few picks away from the end of the draft, where you're really just throwing darts at a board, you're going to take Clayton Tune. You're going to take him. You're going to hopefully, at best case scenario, he ends up eventually usurping Mitch for the second spot. At worst case scenario, he's Oladokin, which they drafted last year. It was an absolute waste of a pick. A true waste. Steelers are not, infallible. They can waste a pick with the best of them. They did it last year with Oladokin. So yeah, round 7 here. I mean, you're basically had to, they took Kenny too high to draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds. And in one of these mock drafts I had, and got some criticism for it, especially from people in the room. I had them taking Tanner Muse in the 4th for that same reason. The guy that would be a 3rd QB that would eventually work his way into a backup QB spot. And yeah, maybe it was too high for that, for sure. No, not Sean Clifford. No, not Sean Clifford. The thing I like about Tune, if you watch his game, he has a very Pickett vibe in that regard, like a gunslinger type. He has some wheels. He makes things happen. He's kind of, obviously you don't always want your backup quarterback to be the same style and the same thing as your starting quarterback. You like to have variety in the room, like one runner guy, whatever. But that's okay. Like the idea is he'll be the 3rd out of the gate, and as long as they have Mitch on the team, and then they can assess next year. But there's a lot of different ways they could go in this draft. We simply do not know what they're going to do. You look under Khan. This is untreaded water here. They could do anything. But to recap my wishful thinking mock draft here for the Steelers, in case you're coming in late, round 1, pick 17 is Paris Johnson, the tackle from Ohio State. Round 2, pick 32, Deonte Banks, the corner from Maryland. Round 2, pick 49, Jack Campbell, linebacker from Iowa. Round 3, pick 80, Julius Brents, the corner from Kansas State. Round 4, pick 120, Nick Herbig, the edge rusher from Wisconsin. A trade. Pittsburgh Steelers trade Kevin Dodson in the 6th round 2024 to Jacksonville for pick 121. With 121, they take Jair Brown, the safety from Penn State. Round 7, pick 241, Carter Warren, the tackle from Pitt. And last pick, round 7, pick 251, Clayton Tune, the quarterback from Houston. Is it No. Are there things that could be changed? Yes. Would I be super happy with that draft? Absolutely. It's only, made better if somehow they got Paris Johnson and Porter. I don't think there's a chance in hell it happens. But man, I'd like to see it. I would love to see Jack Campbell. I feel like they're not going to take Campbell. I would love to see Campbell. Todd, you're right. I would like to see a center at some point. I almost in fact, I changed around pick 32 so much. At one point, I had Brian Brees at 32. At one point, I had John Michael Schmitz at 32, the center. At one point, I had Porter. I just was like, well, let's just put Porter in there. Hopefully it'll work. But I just thought it was unrealistic, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, there's so many places they could go. They could absolutely go center. And I wouldn't be shocked if they went, because I don't think I did it in mine, if they went defensive tackle. But they brought in 2 defensive tackles. They brought in Armon Watts. They brought in Fede Taco, and they still have Montravius Adams, I believe. So you have 3 kind of nose tackles there. Now, the one thing they didn't address that obviously there's concerns right now is that, Cam Hayward's getting older. Ogunjobi is over 30. And their D-line is aging rapidly. Do you bring in a young D-lineman to be groomed? Well, they have done that over the last couple of drafts with Loudermilk, with DeMarvin Leal. And you hope one of those guys will take the next step. It hasn't really happened so far. Colbert, I think, in his later years was starting to, he's like, we'll just take Kendrick Green because he looks like Marquise Pouncey. We'll just take Isaiah Loudermilk because he looks like Cam Hayward. Well, neither of them so far has turned into the players they look like. Hopefully they eventually get someone there. Who's the leader of the O-line right now? I don't know. It's a good question. I don't think it's Chuck's, even though he'd probably be like the longest tenured, I guess you could say. Maybe James Daniels, maybe Cole, maybe. Oh, it'd probably be Similo. I mean, Similo right now, I get maybe. Obviously they haven't gelled yet. They haven't got into camp. I think the guy from the Eagles, Similo, or what, I'm gonna butcher his name, but you know what? That's a good ad by the Browns. So Dalvin Tomlinson, getting Watts and getting Watts and Federico or what. I've heard of Watts, but I've not heard of the other guy from the Chargers as far as the Steelers DTs are concerned or nose tackles are concerned. But you wonder, are they going to add to that room because they added 2 of those guys? I don't think so. But it would be nice to have them add a tried and true backup, D end or somebody on the D line to make up for the inconsistencies that or not even the inconsistencies, but with injuries, with players getting older, you'd like to have somebody being groomed currently, but I just don't think they have the currently availability to add that unless they are adding then a veteran to take over one of those spots. Browns DT was last in every. Ooh, yikes. Yeah. I mean, the Steelers, at least their defensive tackle position can be made better. I've been looking for Casey Hampton. I think everybody has since Casey Hampton left. They haven't had a ton of players in there that have been really good. Javon Hargrave is really the most recent one, and he just got paid big time by the 49ers. So, let me know your thoughts on this draft. I thought it was going to be a quick half hour, but I appreciate everybody in the comments chiming in. My friends that I'll be seeing tomorrow for the draft, I will be going live. Or to try to go live, just like I did with Pickett last year, to assess the results of when this what they do whether they trade up or trade down. I would like to go live and talk about it live with to have at the best some of you to chime in, at the worst at least a footnote, at least a frozen in time live reaction to what occurred here. Also, for those that are here right after this live stream, of which I'm wrapping it up here, right after the 19-inch TV, I have 2 TVs that are larger than that one I'm looking at. One's over. How dare you? How dare you? I have right directly after this live stream ends, I will be posting a video that is, I did all 32 teams first round mock draft. And I recorded this a week ago, so my apologies in advance. I recorded this a week ago, so the Rodgers deal hadn't happened, the Allen Robinson deal hadn't happened, but the pure chaos version of the mock draft. What happens when teams do, and not every team does this. Some of them do draft consistently with what the experts and their local people seem to think, but some people in this draft do something a little bit different. Chaos. 31 teams. That's right. Miami got forfeited. So, in fact, I had to change I put a thumbnail and I went all 32 teams, and I went, Miami. 30. Then I put all teams. I just erased the number. But yeah, 31 teams in this draft. Obviously, not all of them have a first round pick because there were several trades and stuff. But all teams, first round mock draft. So I guess it's not all teams. Teams have. Dolphins lost 1, and Philadelphia has 2 picks, and somebody else has 2 picks. Seattle, I think. So not all teams, even though I put all teams. Anyway, and we're getting besides the point. The point being is, as soon as this live stream ends, this video goes live, and it's the chaos edition of what would happen in a mock draft. Because if you remember and my apologies, Real Browns fan 32, if you remember when the Browns took Baker Mayfield, chaos. Because they weren't supposed to take Baker Mayfield at 1. There was other names that were being considered, and they took Baker Mayfield. And I remember the chaos of it, and other teams scrambling, and certain, phones were, ringing and deals being struck and stuff like that. So this draft that you're going to see directly after this live stream is right on the same vein. It is chaos right at the top, and it's chaos throughout. Now, like I said, not every team is chaotic, but certain teams are, and certain teams are not. But it's fun. I had a little bit of fun with it. So I hope you enjoy it. And everybody, thanks so much for stopping by and blowing up the chat window here and having a conversation, talking Steelers draft on draft eve. What an exciting time. Especially Real Browns fan. I love Real Browns fan when he shows up, because he is a Browns fan. This is a Steelers chat, and he shows up consistency. He's the man. Browns fans and Steelers fans can coexist. It's fine. It's not the hated bitter rivalry. I mean, I guess it is for certain people, but it's not the hated bitter rivalry. And when you do meet a fan of a team who's a bitter rival of your team and they're cool, it's nice. It's not bad. Yeah, tip of the cap to Browns fan. He's awesome. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching this live stream, talking about an hour with you. And I will see you tomorrow. Actually, not just the video that's going live tonight, but I have one more mock coming out tomorrow for draft day. So be on the look for that. I did what, I actually even though there was a criticism about the movie Draft Day, I liked the movie Draft Day. I thought it was pretty good. Ivan Reitman directed that picture. He directed Ghostbusters, one of my favorite films of all time. There's a big poster directly behind my screen here of the original Ghostbusters film, the Dan Aykroyd sign. So yeah, I love Ghostbusters. And yeah, I do actually like the Draft Day movie, even though it's kind of silly. 3 number 1 picks, trading them back in the same day. But look, it would be chaos. And I love the draft with chaos. So be on the lookout for this is why I usually edit. Be on the lookout for that video soon. Thanks for stopping in the chat. And guys, thanks so much for watching. Until the next live stream, which I got a little microphone here. I'm probably gonna be doing some more live streams. So I will see you soon. But until then, bye everyone.